Nathaniel Tan. In my final presentation, the topic for my final presentation, is Asian religions and the supernatural. This is a very generalized topic, very broad. Supernatural, what does that even mean? So I decided to just, instead of trying to explain everything supernatural about every single one of the religions we looked at, which would take much longer than 20 minutes, I decided to focus on just one aspect of these of the religions we looked at, and do more or less a comparison of them all. And that aspect that I chose is creation myths. So, what is a creation myth? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is what different religions have attributed the creation of the world to, whether it is through the acts of one god or many gods, or whether or not the world has been in existence for all of time itself and there was no creation. That in itself is a creation myth. The idea that there was never a creation, there will never be an end, it was never a beginning, whatever. And so during this presentation, I will be looking at the different creation myths of the 7 religions we looked at during this class over this past semester, in the order that we looked at them, namely Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, Taoism, Confucianism, and then Shintoism. As I'm going through, I will be explaining these different creation myths, as well as comparing them to each other and seeing just how similar or dissimilar each of these creation myths are, and potentially why that could be. At the end, I will do a short conclusion over these different creation myths, and maybe I'll talk about which one's my favorite. The Hinduism creation myth is a very interesting one. It's pretty unique in the fact that Hinduists believe that the world is in a cycle of creation and destruction. That can be seen from their triumvirate, I believe it is called, of their 3 gods. There is Brahma, who is the creator god. He's the one who creates everything. There's Vishnu, the preserver. Vishnu works to maintain the world that Brahma has created, to protect it, and to save it when it needs to. And finally, the 3rd major god in Hinduism is Shiva, the destroyer, who rains destruction down on the earth whenever it sort of fails to maintain the purity, the goodness that Brahma first made it as. So these 3 gods, while being separate beings with different roles, are also considered in Hinduism as all forms of the same, supreme god. And yeah, so the one creation myth for Hinduism that I found when I was doing my research is that after each old universe is destroyed, nothing is left but a vast ocean. Floating on this ocean, resting on the great snake Ananta, is Lord Vishnu. Some say that a lotus flower springs from his navel, and from this comes Lord Brahma, and it is from Lord Brahma that all creation comes. How does Lord Brahma create? Some tell of how he grows lonely and splits himself in 2 to create male and female. Then he becomes one again, and human beings are created. In the same way, he creates all the other living things, from the great animals to the tiniest insects. Others say that everything comes from different parts of Lord Brahma's body. All the different animals and all the people come from his mouth, his arms, his thighs, his feet. Everything comes from one, Lord Brahma, who's part of the Supreme One, so everything is part of the Supreme One. For this universe, this world, and this Lord Brahma, like all those before and all those to come, will be destroyed by Lord Shiva. The idea that different people come from Brahma's mouth, arms, thighs, and feet is one of the original ideas of the caste system. From his mouth come the priests, from his arms the warrior class, from his thighs the merchants, and from his feet the lowest caste, the workers. So the creation myth continues on, talking about how that the cycle of creation and destruction is the day and night cycle of Lord Brahma. When he's awake, that's when he creates the world and the world flourishes. When he sleeps, that's when Shiva destroys everything. And then every morning after he wakes up, he creates everything once again. So this is the Hindu creation myth. So the Buddhist creation myth, there's a few of them, but they can all basically be summarized as having no real one primal unmoved mover. There is no creator God, according to Buddhism. There were four different creation myths that I found when I was doing my research. One of them was the loop, infinite loop creation. Basically, that everything comes from something else, which comes from something else, which comes from the original thing. And that it's always been a cycle of basically evolution and de-evolution. And there wasn't ever a beginning. A couple of the other creation myths for Buddhism that I found was literally just that there's never going to be an end to the world. There's never going to be an end to existence because there was not a beginning of existence. There was an interesting one that was really just that everything kind of developed all together. But the point of it all being in Buddhism for creation is that they don't attribute it to a god. They don't attribute there being a creator god or some primal unmoved mover. It either has always existed, life has always existed, or it developed all at once together. So Jainism is actually kind of similar to Buddhism. Jainism is, in my opinion, more of a philosophy than a religion. It's all about being good, doing good. And for Jainism, there is no creator God. There is no gods in general. And even if there is something that we would call a god, it's not some celestial, otherworldly being. Rather, it's just a more developed, more evolved human. And so for the Jains, there is no creation myth because everything has always been in existence. There's no one that you can actually attribute creation to because there is no supernatural God in Jainism. So, Sikhism. Well, Sikhism is similar and very dissimilar to other religions. The first Guru Nanak teaches the existence of one God, a God known as Ik Onkar. And first Guru Nanak taught that the creator and creation are inseparable in the way that an ocean is made up of individual drops. And in comparison to the Abrahamic religions of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism that believe in a original man, that believes in a created beginning, in Sikhism, in contrast, believes that, for Guru Nanak anyways, he wrote that God's creation consists of a multitude of universes, and that no one knows for certain how or when creation took place except for the creator himself. And there's this short, interesting poem kind of thing that sort of explains how the Sikhs look at creation. I'm going to read the translated version, obviously, because I can't read the original. but it goes along the lines of what was that season and what was that month when the universe was created. The Pandits, the religious scholars, cannot find that time, even if it is written in the Puranas. The time is not known to the Quasis, who study the Quran. The day and the date are not known to the yogis, nor is the month or the season. The Creator who created this creation, only He Himself knows. So, Taoism, or Taoism. This one is actually probably my favorite creation myth, because it's so different than other religions. It's very unique. So yeah, let me just talk about it and explain it. So for Taoism, they believe that in the beginning of time, before anything existed, there was only chaos, primordial chaos. And this chaos, there was nothing else there. The elements, the gases of the heavens and earth freely mingled. The organizing principle was dormant. It lay dormant somewhere inside this elemental cosmos, awaiting the right moment to begin its transformation. And the shape of this primeval mass was something like an egg. So the organizing principle can be thought of as fate, or the underlying law of heaven, something like that. And at the beginning of time, it was dormant. It was basically asleep. And it kind of looked like an egg. And it stayed this way for 18,000 years until the egg hatched. Then the heavens and earth came into existence. The lighter, most pure substances floated upward and became the heavens. These elements were named yang, while the heavier, more impure substances descended and became the earth. These were named yin. And from the same forces, a third, the giant Pangu, was born as well. And as he grew, his sheer size divided the heavens and the earth. And this giant, he lived for another 18,000 years. And during his life, during those 18,000 years, he was assisted by 4 creatures, a tortoise, a phoenix, a dragon, and a unicorn, with whom he labored daily to mold the earth, and together they created the world as we know it today. Now when Pangu finally died 18,000 years later, his body transformed. His left eye became the sun, and his right eye became the moon. His blood became the rivers and oceans. His breath became the wind. His sweat became the rain, and his voice became the thunder. His flesh became the soil, and from the fleas living on his body, the human race sprang into being. Like, according to Taoism, we used to be fleas. Wow. And in this way, the stage was set for the pageant of history to unfold. So there is the theme of 1 giving rise to 2, and 2 giving rise to 3, which we talked about in class before. The idea that chaos, primordial chaos, was the only thing in the beginning, and from primordial chaos came yin and yang. 1 became 2, and 2 gives rise to 3. That is, yin and yang, the interactions between the 2 sparks the creation of chi, or vital energy, living energy. And it is between the combination of chi as well as the interactions of yin and yang that come up with the 5 basic elements that create the earth, according to Taoism. These 5 elements are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And these 5 elements are also interlying and related to each other as well. That being that wood feeds fire, fire creates earth, earth produces metal, and metal collects water, while water nourishes wood. This is the positive cycle between the 5 elements. The negative cycle is that water extinguishes fire, fire melts down metal, metal cuts wood, and wood dams water. No, I'm sorry. Wood absorbs nutrients in earth, while earth dams water. I skipped an element there. But these are the 5 elements, and it goes along with the theme in Taoism that everything is interconnected, that everything together is what creates the world that we live in. So Confucianism is similar similar to Jainism. It's more of a philosophy. I mean, Confucianism, no. If in my opinion, Confucianism is very much a philosophy, not a religion. It's a way of thinking, a way of life, not actually like religion so much. Instead, in Confucianism, it's heavy emphasis on familial piety. It's heavy emphasis on respecting your elders, those in authority above you, and sort of just trying to work towards making the system work. And because of that, it's more of a philosophy. It's not really a religion. And there is no actual creation myth for Confucianism. Rather, Confucianists can also be Taoist. And the creation myth that they'll believe in is the same as Taoism. The idea that 1 gives rise to 2, 2 gives rise to 3, 3 gives rise to 5, and from 5, the world is created. Alright, and finally on to Shintoism. Shintoism stems from Japan, so the Shintoist creation myth is also known as the Japanese creation myth. But this creation myth is, in effect, it's similar to Taoism, but at the same time it's not. But it starts out the same, that at the beginning of the universe there was nothing but chaos. But then there were sounds indicating the movement of particles, and with this movement the lightest particles rose, but the particles were not as fast as the light and could not go higher. Thus the light was at the top of the universe, and below it the particles formed first the clouds and then heaven, which was to be called Takamagahara, or the high plane of heaven. The rest of the particles that had not risen formed a huge mass, dense and dark, to be called Earth. When Takamagahara, or the high plains of heaven, was formed, the first 3 gods of Japanese mythology appeared. That is, Ame no Minaka Nushi, Takami Musuhi, and Kami Musuhi. Subsequently, 2 gods emerged in Takamagahara from an object similar to a reed shoot. That is, Umashiyashi Kabi Hikoji and Ame no Tokotachi. These 5 deities, these 5 gods, known as Koto Amatsukami, appeared spontaneously, did not have a definite sex, did not have a partner, and went into hiding after their emergence. They kind of just disappear after they show up. Then next, there were 2 other gods who arose, Kuni no Tokotachi and Toyo Kumono. These gods also emerged spontaneously, did not have a defined sex, did not have a partner, and hid at birth. Then after their creation, there was 5 pairs of gods who were born, for a total of 10 gods, each pair consisting of a male god and a female god. That is, Uhijini and his younger sister and wife, Suhijini, Tsunuguhi and his younger sister and wife, Ikuguhi, Otonoji and his younger sister and wife, Otonobe, Omodaru and his younger sister and wife, Ayakashikone, and Izanagi and his younger sister wife, Izanami. These deities, from Kuni no Tokotachi to Izanami, all 12 of them are collectively called Kami-Yonanayo, or the 7 divine generations. Now, following the creation of the heaven and earth and the appearance of these primordial gods, Izanagi and Izanami went on to create the Japanese archipelago and gave birth to a large number of gods. Now, Izanagi and Izanami gave birth to the many islands of Japan. One creation myth says that it was water that dropped off the blade of Izanagi's sword, and these water droplets, upon hitting the earth, created islands. Or something like that. But Izanagi and Izanami are credited with not only creation of the world, or creation of life as we know it, but also with the creation of the different gods in Shintoism. It is thought, though, that Izanami unfortunately died after giving birth to the fire god Kagutsuchi, who Izanagi then executed, which is like, wait, you just killed your son because your wife died in childbirth? Huh? Questionable parenting. But then afterwards, Izanagi went to the underworld, or Yomi no Kuni, in the hopes of retrieving Izanami. However, Izanami had eaten food of the underworld, which, as anyone who studied Greek mythology can tell you, that's a big no-no. It means you can't leave. And so Izanagi was unable to bring her back, and then betrayed his promise not to look at her and lit up a fire, only to see her in a monstrous and hellish state. And such to avenge her shame, Izanami dispatched the lightning god Yakuza no Ikazuchi no Kami, or Raijin, as well as the horrible hag Yomotsu Shikome, to chase after him. Izanagi escaped, but Izanami then vowed to kill 1,000 of his people every day. Izanagi retorted that 1,500 will be born every day. And after Izanagi returned out of the underworld, he begat Amaterasu, the sun goddess, from his left eye, Tsukuyomi, the moon god, from his right eye, and Susanoo, the storm god, from his nose. So, Izanagi and Izanami started off as a pair of siblings and spouses, and then they turned into, enemies during this creation myth, which is very unique, because no other or very few other religions will consider that creator gods turn against each other. It's just not a really big popular theme. It's if you create a god, you stick together. Like, you created the world together, you'll be together for as long as the world exists. But that's not the case in Shintoism, which makes it very interesting. It's a very unique perspective. And so that is all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. If you didn't, that's fine as well. In any case, thanks for watching.